This is Dr. Jason Remenick, CEO and founder of Thalamus, and you're listening to Thalamus Grand Rounds, the premier podcast built by Graduate Medical Education for Graduate Medical Education. Whether a program coordinator, program director, GME administrator, DIO, or applicant, join me and my guests as we discuss hot topics in innovation in the residency and fellowship recruitment process.
Hi, everyone. Excited for today's show. Today we have as our guest Michelle Gonzalez, the Graduate Medical Education Internal Medicine Program Coordinator for the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Hospital. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you and looking forward to the discussion. So if you could just start off by telling us about yourself and your journey to and within GME, that'd be great.
Sure. I started in a residency program back in Palm Springs, California at a previous hospital called Eisenhower Health. I actually stumbled across GME by accident. I actually was a bed coordinator where I will assign the patients that were being admitted to the hospital throughout the hospital, assign their beds and so forth. I decided to submit my application to be a full-time employee. And with my application, I was applying for a different position, and the hiring manager saw my resume and punted to the Graduate Medical Education Department for an inpatient residency coordinator. And that's how I started 6 years ago with internal medicine. And I developed my skills and everything, got to know more residency. And 6 years later, I applied out here to Los Angeles, and I stumbled across Martin Luther King Community Hospital, and I found out they were starting a brand new program from the ground up and a new department and so forth into a new hospital that's been open since 2015. I decided to apply. I loved it. I love the transparency, and I packed my stuff, moved out to Los Angeles, and started a brand new program. So I'm new to the city, new hospital, new program, new lifestyle, everything new.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah, and it's a great intro to today's episode, of course, which is going to be talking about what it's like to be the founding coordinator at a new residency program. So yeah, congrats on the move, and hope the jump to LA has been great. Yeah, can you tell us to start a little bit about Martin Luther King Jr. Community Healthcare as an institution and what led to the creation of this new GME program?
Sure thing. So Martin Luther King Community Hospital was open in 2015. However, during the planning before the opening of the hospital, when they were planning addressing all the services and needs for the hospital, the challenges that the community faced of South of Los Angeles, Graduate Medical Education was involved in their planning. So the hospital already had GME in their future. They knew they were going to have a residency, and that was one of the goals that they wanted to achieve. Now, from 2015 to 2018, the hospital received accreditation from ACGME to be a sponsored institution. So 3 years after its opening, they were able to start being a sponsoring institution to take residents from other institutions. And then this led to the hospital being able to integrate the internal medicine in April of this year. The institution is in a very underserved community. I know with the institution, their goal is to be able to implement and address all the needs that they're facing. With that being said, that's where I would say the challenges faced that it started the residency program. It was to address the social injustice that was occurring as well, especially in the healthcare disparity. What Dr. Fisher, my DIO, tends to say is that the community has a lot of sick adults. And with that, having to address the needs and the challenges, they decided to have an internal medicine program to be able to address those concerns, especially with the physician shortage that the hospital is currently facing, up to 1,200 physician shortage at this time. It's divided between half primary, half subspecialty. So internal medicine was actually the program that they saw that it was more appropriate for the hospital and the institution. And the hospital, MLK, has, like I said, it's 3 years after opening, they became sponsored institution. 5 years later, they now have 6 years later, have a new internal medicine program. It's been growing and thriving, the institution itself, and it's been great, the process.
That's amazing. I think there's a lot to unpack here in the sense that there's a lot of residency programs that have been around for decades or longer. There are certainly many institutions that have been around for quite a long time. And here you have a hospital that opened within the last 5-6 years. and did so with the idea of having a GME program in mind. And there are many permutations of this, right? There's bills on the floor of Congress looking to increase the Medicare sponsored residency positions throughout the country. Yeah, I think it's just really interesting for those in graduate medical education to understand that programs are starting in all different ways and for all different reasons. I think it's also interesting for a hospital to have a mission to clearly to fight social injustice. I think one of the main factors of people's health that isn't addressed as much as it should is sort of these proximal and distal causes of disease, and this can be a disease in itself or can be the contributing factor to people's acute or chronic diseases. It's very exciting to hear that, particularly obviously in Los Angeles, which just has a large population and many different types of hospitals as well. As the founding coordinator, what was your role in building the new program?
We're still building, and I think the program itself is going to continue to still build as we implement like more structure, having our residents here passing like all the stages, like kind of like how every year it is for residency coordinator. You start recruitment, you have to recruitment, you're processing the onboarding and so forth. I think this program will be continuing to build throughout the years. It's mainly because when you have a brand new program, we won't know. Right now we can say, oh, we have a game plan, but once we have our players, our residents here starting on day one, we're going to be making changes and kind of like filling in the blanks as we're going. That way we won't know until we physically have them here. That way we can implement more of a program and build it much better and have the right structure. But building it as of now has been a great challenge. It's been a great challenge. And I mean it in a very positive way. I've never had the experience of having to inform of an employee what graduate medical education is, how much of a residency program is going to be implemented, like having to meet with different departments and be able to be the advocate of why this residency is important. Why do I need these softwares applications? Why we're transitioning to recruitment? What are the necessary things that I'm going to need, all the resources and the tools? It's pretty much being able to have the patience and meeting with all these departments, and a lot of the staff do not have any experience working with residents or doesn't even know what a GME really is. So it's been a challenge in a sense as in educating, but same time, it has taught me to know more of the hospital, know more of the culture, as well as the challenges that it's faced. So to be part of the movement of adding something huge into the hospital. And it's also knowing that it's the smallest little things that you forget. For instance, the other day I remembered, I need to look up incident reporting for my residents. What happens if they need to report on an incident that occurred during their inpatient service? Those smallest little things that we don't come across that actually helps, because as much as anything, I'm the only one in the graduate medical education. I've noticed that what a lot of work it is. However, each milestone is very rewarding. For instance, when we were able to have Thelamis be part of our recruitment this season, I was very happy. I was like super excited. It was just the smallest little things that you appreciate when you hit like a goal, a project, a milestone, everything, all of the above. And building it has been great because I have the full support of my faculty, who are also a huge asset to this department as well to the hospital. And a lot of my faculty have been with MLK since the opening of the hospital. So they're coming to us with their knowledge, their experience within the hospital, as well as how excited they are, how involved they want to be with the residency. And that allows us to understand more the culture within the hospital, us understand each department, understand how everything here transpires. What are the things that we need to do, and as a new program, as well as being able to have insights, like have their involvement as well to build this program. Like I said, it's a positive challenge, I would say.
That's awesome. And I think there are some really important themes here. We've done several of these podcasts at this point, and it seems like a lot of admins and coordinators have accidentally found their roles and then really found something that they've loved. And we often talk about this and how the coordinator is really the champion of the residency program. I think that applies even more here in founding a residency program. I mean, we're a startup company. You guys are essentially a startup hospital and a startup residency program. It's a little bit anxiety inducing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also just fun because you get to create. And so I think that's just really interesting. For sort of along those lines, what strategies have you used with your PD to work together to build out your program?
So that's a good question. The strategy that we currently have is that we have a consulting company that we work with, Germain Solutions. They have been a huge part even before the starting of the internal medicine program. They've been with helping the hospital to receive its ACGME accreditation for the sponsoring institution. So they allow us to give us kind of like an Excel sheet. Like, these are the things that we need to do as a new program. I tend to do a strategy where I add for the month of December, like, what are my goals? What is it that I need to achieve? Aside from recruitment, I also have to remember to go back to the program. Me and Dr. Epen, we share an office together because our GME office is currently being built. And I write our week goals. I write down exactly what we need to tackle for the week. I try my best to make sure me and Dr. Epen, our calendars are up to date. We were meeting with the right departments. I know he tackles in the most important aspects of the program, such as establishing the rotations and addressing all the inpatients and so forth. So I try my best to make sure things are being done as well. Just establishing goals is the main key. I mean, like I said, as much as we have Emmanuel and Germain to help us, sometimes it's you tackle so much that you forget the certain items, the small things or the big things. So I try my best to just strategize and like what's important right now. What should we tackle? So like for us, the month of September was all recruitment, establishing. So that's one of the strategies that me and Dr. Epen have, is that we want to keep open-minded of everything. I'm also trying to implement the education session for my faculty. Again, this is the first time working with residents, first time with recruitment. So it's just pretty much me and my PD. We've been very leading off each other a lot and just setting those goals, making sure that I keep us both in line, that I keep making sure we meet our deadlines and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think, as you kind of alluded to here, it's a team effort, and you've said you need to get faculty buy-in, you're getting hospital leadership buy-in, certainly program director buy-in from Dr. Epen, and working together sort of as that core team. What's it like doing that from the perspective of an experienced coordinator coming to a brand new program versus, back when you were a new coordinator in an already established program, or just imagining a new coordinator for a new program?
Coming from an established program and building a new one, I see it's very different. When you're in an established program, stuff like the dynamic, the structure's already built. So you're already walking into something that's already been repetitive, like it's already been structured, like the schedules to the management and so forth. Now, coming in as a brand new program, as a coordinator, it's challenging. It's one of the things that when I came into the program is that I wanted to have a program where we're getting input from not just the faculty, my program involvement. I want us to make sure we also have our residents being involved, having their input of the progress of the hospital, as well as the program, to address any concerns and issues, implement change, and implementing diversity in our program. We want it to be a very unique residency, especially since me and Dr. Epen, we both come from two established residency. Dr. Epen's fairly new to Los Angeles. He did his residency, graduated, and stayed there at the hospital that he did his residency. So this is both our first time establishing a new program. And we just came in like, okay, what is it that we learned from our previous programs that we don't want to implement in the new one? Now, at the same time, we decided to, as we were coming and working again at the very beginning, we started to add our faculty, and faculty is what helped us start doing the movement, where a lot of our faculty, some of them have been out of residency or fellowship in the last few years. So a lot of them came in with their ideas. And we're addressing the well-being as well. We're already having the well-being committee being established. How are we going to implement well-being into our program? How are we going to implement the setting up for success for our residents? So we're already addressing a lot more than I thought we were ever going to do in the very beginning at this point. And I think one of the things right now, it's the most important for me, I think it's important, it's the well-being. portion of the program, and are allowing our residents, our applicants, actually, I can't even say residents, our applicants right now, to see what type of culture we have. I mean, even during recruitment, in our meetings, our faculty discussions, as well as our candidate Q&A, when we virtually sit with our applicants, and they're seeing not just the faculty and our PD, they're seeing our vice president of medical affairs there to answer any questions that they may have about the program, about the hospital, as well as my DIO, who's also our CMO, Dr. John Fisher. They're also involved in the Q&As, and it's been really great seeing how much this hospital is involved in establishing a new program, especially since I said before, addressing the needs of the community, of how underserved it is. The way that they're very passionate about the hospital, it helps me understand the program more, understand the culture more, understand what's my reason of being here as a residency coordinator. Why is it so important to have a new program? And I think that really helps me understand the whys before, like I said, when you go into an established program, you don't even ask those questions. Those questions don't even come to your mind because you already know, okay, this residency has been here for 5-10 years. You don't ask what made you guys start a new program? Here, I'm learning all the questions that I never thought I'll ask. I'm asking the questions, and I'm being given the answers every single week, every single day that I'm at the hospital. And that helps. It helps me understand more. It makes me appreciate a lot more my faculty because of all their hard work that they've been doing, as well as just understanding the challenges that our patients face, the community itself. And it's been just great, just the involvement. It's what makes it great. When I sit there sometimes and during our candidate Q&A, our applicants are in there, seeing all of us in there, and being able to ask a question to our DIO and about the administrative side, and him addressing all and answering the questions really shows a whole different side to a new residency, because I'm not very familiar with other programs being able to have the DIOs that sit there answering any questions, as well as our CEO, Dr. Elaine Batchelor. She's going to be joining us next week for interviews. So she'll be conducting interviews and it's just, for me, it's just phenomenal to see that as a coordinator, where I would have never imagined my previous CEO being involved in that. And it's been really great because it opens my eyes to seeing more the culture of the hospital, more the support, and it's very moving. It's very rewarding, I would like to say, especially when applicants always sit there and tell me oh, that's really amazing. I've never had an interview where I have all the panel, including administrative in there. And I agree. This is my first time, and it's been great just coming from established to a new. Like I said before, you appreciate every single milestone that you're achieving, especially this interview process. The recruitment process has been great to see it.
No, that's spectacular. We often have applicants coming to us and asking, what should I be looking for in a program? And I think it's very important to look for the program that's going to make you the physician that you want to be. We, being a startup organization ourselves, the really unique thing about that is you can define and build a culture. Mm-hmm. But I think your institution is living that for sure, because you have a mission. You're very clearly presenting that here, and I think it speaks to really everything that you're talking about. And yeah, for a resident who's looking for a program, applicants need to know that no two programs, even though it's the same ACGME accreditation, mm-hmm. and you're going to get similar patient encounters, are really going to be the same. And I think for residency programs, defining that can only help them. And for applicants, defining that for themselves and what program they're looking for can help them identify that as well. So, that just gets me super excited. Are there pieces you and Dr. Eapen took from your prior programs that you said, yes, these are things we thought were really important? Or maybe these were things we want to make sure our program doesn't have, because we were able to create something new. So what was the thought process there?
So when me and Dr. Epen sat down, we pretty much asked, like, what are we looking for? Like, what program do we want to have? And one of the things that we even tell our applicants to this day was that we want this residency to not just be where you're learning your clinical skills, but we want to make sure that this program is giving a lot of support, the right tools and resources to make our residents be better clinicians, to be able to graduate and be like, I got this when they go out in other words, when they go out to be their first physician job. Our program is not just based on, okay, just strictly inpatient, get your procedures done, go to your rotations, graduate, and so forth. That's not the culture we want to have. We are not here to have our residents be burned to the ground with just amount of like 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, only 1 day off, like fatigue, like burn out our own residents. We want to make sure they're learning every single day. The great thing about our faculty is that they started to address, like, are we going to have our resident on first day be by themselves with the faculty? And we said yes. And like, well, is it possible to modify the schedule and have them be paired up with another resident? That way he or she is not felt alone, especially since it's the first day. So hearing that input, hearing their concerns that they had as preceptors, that helped us to modify, to go ahead and make the change on our schedule. So that way our residents, when they start their inpatient, they have another peer with them, another resident with them, along as well as with their preceptor. This allowed us to start opening the door to having more of our faculty help us change the dynamic, create the culture. It's funny how you mentioned this. Something that I learned from other programs is that I'm glad that we're very open to change, that we are a program that's going to be open to change. Hey, we didn't do this correctly. Okay, let us fix it. Let us find ways to improve. And that's something that from our experience is that it's very hard to implement change to some established residencies, especially with faculty involvement, when you want to add diversity into your recruitment, you want to change a certain filter, you want to implement. Maybe we should review the applicants who have a failed step score somewhere. Let's hear their side of what happened, because we understand there's always that bias about people who failed their step one and so forth. So we eliminated all of that. We didn't want to be that program. We wanted to be that program as being our first season is, okay, let's see, what are we looking for? Okay, they haven't failed. Yes, we're going to review your application. We're going to see if you're fit for our program as well, if you're aligned with our mission and goals, as well as are we aligned with your goals as well. So we're taking into consideration not just what we're looking for, but what is this applicant also looking for? And yeah, we took applicants who have a failed step score and allow them to address it in their personal statement. And we're like, okay, you know what, let's invite them for an interview. Because we understand at the end of the day, we don't know what happened in that factor of that student's life that allowed them to fail. Some of them even addressed that they had to change their learning technique, how to study and so forth. So we were very open to seeing what we wanted to expand our filters. In other words, we wanted to see more than just what we're so used to. Okay, we didn't want to be that program that just wanted to take pure U.S. school grads. Like, we didn't want to do that. We were very open to everything pretty much, with some of the limitations. And I think that allows us to see more that is eliminating the bias, I guess I can say, is the huge thing that we, Dr. Epen, have. Like, we're not like, oh, the whole bias between DOs and MDs. We're like, no, they're physicians at the end of the day. You call them doctor so-and-so at the end of the day. And that's something that we did not want to be that program either. We wanted to be the program that we're going to interview whether you have a DO or MD at the end of your title. We wanted to make sure that we are eliminating bias as well as opening to diversity, which is huge, especially with the limitations that a lot of our applicants face as well. A lot of the limitations that they face because they're not from a U.S. school. The residents are going to be the huge part of the change. Like I said, when you asked me earlier, like building the program, when I said it was still being built is because once our residents are here, we won't be able to know the do's and the don'ts until later when they're here. Like, okay, this plan didn't work. Maybe the short call did not work. How about we change it next year? We change it right away, because they're going to help us be a better program. We want our residents to know what community they're serving. Like I said before, our community of South of Los Angeles is a very underserved community. It's a lot, they are already experiencing a lot of challenges, pre-existing conditions that they had prior to COVID. And it's just, and when COVID hit, a lot of our patients got hit very hard, especially in the South of Los Angeles. I think they had like 2 or 3 times the amount of patients in the rest of the hospitals in Los Angeles. And to be able to now they're addressing all of this, and as well as our patients are very limited to healthcare access, as well as a lot of them are uninsured and so forth. From there, those were the things that, like us as a program, we want our applicants, our future residents to understand this is the community that we're serving. It's not just here for you to experience as a resident, but you're also going to make an impact in the community by not just within the hospital grounds, but also being able to go out into the community for outreach, go and help address the needs to our community. So for instance, this week, they sent out a flyer saying for volunteers who want to go out to the community and distribute flu shots. And you think me as maybe new to the community, new to the hospital and everything, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I have never heard that. Not even my prior hospitals that I work with, they're actually going out to the schools to give out flu shots. And that's something that it's been moving me in the sense that, like, I even told the applicants today, oh yeah, we do this, we do outreach, it's not just you learning in the hospital, but you're also going to learn the community as well, and addressing those needs that they need on those services, and the exposure that they're going to receive is something that's rewarding. And I know, like, we talk about it a lot in our interviews during our Q&A, but it's more the fact that me and Dr. Eben, we always tell our applicants, we're not looking for 5 competitive residents. We don't want our residents to be competing each other. That's not the culture we're setting. We want 5 residents who are going to be 5 chief residents who are going to help serve the community, address the needs, learn, as well as being able to have the culture where each resident can lean off each other, can learn off each other. And that's something that we want to have. And that's just, that's pretty much it that I can think of. But it's just setting the culture, like you said.
It's remarkable. And, we'll host these podcasts, but I'll also do other podcasts where we talk more about innovation and entrepreneurship in general. And you built a program, but you're continuing to build it. You're open to change. You have the flexibility. Like, all of these are themes with startups, be it in tech, education, really any industry, and including obviously healthcare. It gives future residents the ability to be a part of that building process too, and experiencing the culture and building the culture of the program. Whereas more established programs have more defined cultures, once that culture is established, as you've alluded to, it's much harder to move the dial any which way. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just really whether anyone who's studied organizational culture, it's just kind of, as it develops, it's harder to change. But when it's first developing, new programs, new organizations have that flexibility. And so you can see that there's, as we've alluded to already, just this consistent designing of this experience, of this educational environment for both your residents and your faculty, and allowing them to build off each other. I think having residents start as a pair is great, because I remember when I started, I was on night float and we were overseen by some of the more senior residents, and I was starting in pediatrics, and my first order I ever put in was just a Tylenol order for a child with had a very mild fever. And I just remember sitting there and thinking it through. Of course, I knew the dose, but it was my first order ever. So it was nerve-wracking. And just remember that I could look to my senior though and say, say, like, was this right? And that was helpful in itself. And I was also on with another intern who had just started, and yeah, we didn't know anything. And yeah, we'd done well in medical school. We studied everything, but just starting your intern year is very different. And so I think designing sort of, that process for your residents, it just speaks to just the overall design of your educational program. It's awesome to hear. And one other question I have is, overall, what has surprised you about this process?
The institution itself, the hospital. It has really surprised me in a sense, as in a very, very moving, very high positive way. Like I said, like, just to simplify that, I have my CEO being involved in the recruitment. It's just, and the amount of support that we're receiving, their involvement that they have, just a simple fact of the involvement, it's for real for me. Like, I sometimes even say to myself, wow, I've never thought I was ever going to be giving my CEO some applications, the applicants folder for her to review so that she knows who they are. It's been great, as well as, and when I mean also in the institution, is also the staff, the people that work there, the people that go there to take care of these, are from our nurses, the environmental services, our catering. Everyone there has just been amazing. They are the hospital. The moment you walk in, the culture, everyone's always saying good morning, hi, greeting you. And just, it's phenomenal, because a lot, especially since this hospital got impacted so heavily last year. And with COVID, I feel like the pandemic really allowed this hospital, the union there, to be kind of like a family. And they all, when the pandemic hit, it really took a toll on everybody, and mentally. And I know everywhere in the nation, the whole world, we all suffered it, especially in this underserved community. Like I said before, they were hit the hardest because of the underlying pre-existing conditions that they had. However, just a simple fact that the CEO was able to go and write a letter to the governor and ask for aid, that the hospital was the surge that they were experiencing. 2 days later, they had the National Guard here helping them. And I think that speaks highly of the institution, that they are able to not only help the community, but they're also helping their staff, their faculty, and so forth. It's a very small hospital, but it's a very united hospital. Like I said, from the very top to the like I said, to the staff, to even one of the things I tell the applicants is that we have valet services and in our parking structure. So, and we have our visitors, they can you can leave their car with the valet. Our valet actually also helps not just the faculty and the staff, but they also do valet service for the patients who come to the emergency room, and they get off the car. If they're driving themselves to the emergency, the valet driver takes their car, gives them their ticket, and parks the car for them. And it's those little things that that you don't see every day. You don't see that. And to see it where you're seeing the valet driver helping him or her doing their part and helping the patient is what makes the institution so great. And like I said, I think just the institution itself, like a lot of the involvement, the nursing are very happy to have a new residency. If anything, one of my, Dr. Prazo, who is our pulmonologist, our critical care physician, he tells us all the time that the staff there are like excited. The nursing are like looking forward to working with residents, and the simple fact that everyone is really excited to have residents and being able to be a key part of the role, it's been great. Because like you just said, like being able to have a brand new program, we have a flexibility to do a lot, but having the amount of support to be able to have us do our job and provide everything to our residents has been really great. And just being part of this movement, being part of the planning, it's a great milestone. And like I said, the institution itself, I'm glad I picked MOK. I'm glad that I took a chance of starting a brand new program. It was nervous. I remember my first week, I didn't know if I was doing anything right. I felt like all my goals and skills and everything went out the window. I sat there like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? Like, it's I know what the resident will feel when they walk in their first day, because you're by yourself. You don't know what you're doing right or wrong. Like you just said, it took you a while to submit that Tylenol order. For me, I'm sitting there like, what am I doing? Am I doing everything right? Am I going to be able to have everything ready for my residents when they start the first day? Do they have all of their equipment, their tools, and so forth? But it's been really great because the hospital itself is there to help. If I need something, they're right away to help me. If I need a new software application, they say, okay, let's start the project and let's build it. So it's been, like I said, once again, it's the amount of support that I'm receiving and the program's going to receive in the future is it's great.
That's really just wonderful. I think that's the benefit of trying something new, a new program, a new organization. There's a lot of risk and uncertainty, but there's the highest chance of reward if it goes well. And so, yeah, I think kudos to you and your program. You're really building a process and a program from the ground up, sort of this grassroots kind of initiative, and it's designed and it's thought about and it's innovated and iterated and consistently evolving. And that, I think, is not only exciting, particularly for your program, but I think it's exciting for graduate medical education in general. And we saw that with the pandemic and other reasons. But the more we can innovate just as an educational community, and when we're hoping to continue to be a part of this as well, the more we can help in this transition from medical school to residency, into residency as training, fellowship, if people want to do that as well. But it's ultimately getting physicians out to the community and providing patient care. And so this is what GME does. And the more we can innovate and sort of grow as the world innovates, I think the better off we will be. And so this has been an awesome conversation. One question we love to wrap up with here is, have you adopted any new hobby or new particular interests during the pandemic at all?
I would say, aside from fitness, like exercising, I learned to have a hobby in reading a lot of books. More. So I know that may not be a hobby, but I tend to go to the thrift stores and look for books. I'm very old school. I like to find the hardcover books and just read at least affirmations books, anything like self-motivating, fictional, non-fictional, just to keep my mind like in mental health well-being, in other words. And of course, my health, it was one of them, especially because I was getting sick a lot, and I realized I needed to change my lifestyle. So just keeping myself healthy as much as possible before.
For sure. No, it's great. I love reading historic plays right around from the 1930s and 1940s, and particularly there's a lot of interesting themes in medicine. So I think there's a lot that can be certainly learned from old books overall. But Michelle, this is great. I think we've really covered a lot in terms of being the founding coordinator at a new residency program and what that experience is like, starting with your own experience in GME and then winding up at MLK. And I think there are some really important lessons for experienced coordinators joining brand new programs, new coordinators joining established programs, or any combination thereof. Really just this continuing idea of innovating and building and refining. It sort of, it's very much like the lean startup methodology as well. So no, this has been absolutely wonderful. We really thank you for joining us on the show today. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you once again, Jason. Thank you for having me, letting me share my experience, and kind of just something just right now I just remembered, but as a new program coordinator, starting a new program, I know what it feels like for applicant now when they're looking for a residency, because that's how I felt when I was looking for the residency that I wanted to start working for. So to have now, I know what it feels like in finding the right program, and it's rewarding. So once again, awesome. Thank you once again for having me. I actually enjoyed it.
No, it's been great. Congratulations on winding up where you're at, and best of luck to your program in the future.